We had 10 children together, 3 of whom died in infancy. We have 7 surviving children, who I'm very proud of.
Where have you lived?
I was born in Shrewsbury, England, and lived there for most of my childhood. I attended the University of Edinburgh and the University of Cambridge, where I studied natural science. After completing my studies, I spent several years travelling on board HMS Beagle as a naturalist. I currently live in Down, England.
Thank you, Mr. Darwin. Now we are ready to start. What role do you believe doubt and uncertainty has in scientific discoveries?
In science, doubt and uncertainty are essential elements. As scientists, we must always be open to new evidence and willing to question our previous beliefs. This willingness to doubt allows us to continue to learn and discover new things about the world around us. At the same time, certainty can also play a role in science. When we have gathered sufficient evidence to support our hypotheses, we can be confident in our conclusions and use them to make predictions about the natural world. However, we must always be open to the possibility that new evidence may emerge that challenges our current understanding.
That's interesting. And what role does science, philosophy, and religion have in your work?
Science, philosophy, and religion have all played a role in my work. Science has been the foundation of my research into natural selection and evolution. It is through science that I was able to observe nature closely enough to make discoveries about how species change over time. Philosophy helped me think more deeply about what these observations meant for our understanding of life on Earth, while religion provided an ethical framework within which I could consider the implications of this new knowledge.
Now, let's talk about the theory of evolution. What did you feel when you finally get to your theory of evolution in its final form? Was that a kind of a eureka moment?
When my theory of evolution by natural selection reached its final form, I felt a sense of excitement and accomplishment. It was the culmination of many years of observation, experimentation, and contemplation, and I knew that it had the potential to change the way we think about the natural world. It was not a sudden eureka moment, but rather the result of a long and careful process of scientific inquiry. I was eager to share my ideas with others and see how they would be received by the scientific community.
I understand you like food. There was in our time a very famous chef called Anthony Bourdain. He traveled the world trying the most extravagant food from the places he visited. I understand that you are a kind of Anthony Bourdain of your time. Am I right? Is it true that you are passionate for food and flavors?
I'm not familiar with the person you're referring to, but I do enjoy trying new foods and flavors from the places I have visited. During my travels on board HMS Beagle, I had the opportunity to taste many exotic foods, including tortoises, iguanas, and armadillos. I found these new flavors to be interesting and enjoyable, and I often wrote about them in my diary. I also enjoy cooking and experimenting with different ingredients and recipes. However, I do not consider myself to be a culinary celebrity like the person you mentioned.
In your book, Travel, a Naturalist Voyage Around the World, Observations of Concepcion Earthquake 1835, book you say, and I quote, "An earthquake instantly reverses the strongest ideas." Well, you know that Chile is probably the capital of earthquakes in the world. So, can you expand on what you had in mind when you wrote this?
When I wrote this, I was reflecting on the powerful and sudden nature of earthquakes. As a naturalist, I was accustomed to observing and studying the slow, gradual changes that occur in the natural world. However, an earthquake is a sudden and violent event that can drastically alter the landscape and cause widespread destruction. This sudden and unexpected change can challenge our preconceived notions and ideas about the natural world, and it can make us question the stability and certainty of our surroundings. In this sense, an earthquake can reverse our strongest ideas and beliefs about the natural world.
I'm sorry to get a little bit technical, but what defines a new species? Is it created or is it discovered?
A new species is a group of organisms that is distinct from other groups and can breed amongst themselves to produce fertile offsprings. The process by which new species are created can happen in several ways. For example, a new species can arise through the splitting of a single population into two or more isolated groups that are unable to interbreed with each other. This can happen due to geographical barriers, such as a mountain range or a river, or due to differences in behavior or sexual preferences. In this sense, new species are both created and discovered, as they arise through natural processes and are then identified and named by scientists.
Charles, are we the strongest species on Earth? What do you think, for example, about plants in relation to humans?
It is difficult to say whether humans are the strongest species, as strength can be measured in many different ways. In terms of physical strength, there are many other animals that are stronger than humans. For example, gorillas and elephants, they are much stronger than humans in terms of physical raw power. In terms of intelligence, humans are considered to be one of the most intelligent species on Earth, with complex brains and the ability to develop and use advanced tools and technologies. In terms of plants, men and other animals are dependent on plants for food, air, and other resources. While plants may not have the same physical or intellectual powers as men or animals, they are of vital importance and should not be underestimated.
Is there such a thing like reverse evolution or involution?
You could be describing a process by which an organism loses characteristics or abilities that it once had. For example, some species of cave-dwelling fish have lost their eyes over time, as they no longer need them in their dark, underground environment. However, it is important to know that evolution is a process that occurs over long periods of time and is driven by natural selection. It favors traits that are advantageous for survival and reproduction, while some traits may be lost. This does not necessarily mean that the organism is evolving in reverse. Instead, the organism is simply adapting to its current environment.